Okay, thank you very much. My name is Satoshi Watanabe from Hiroshima University, and I'm gonna be talking about national universities in Japan. It's really not easy to talk about what's happening over there in terms of new nationalism, because it's always quiet and silent, and it's nothing. Well, I wouldn't say nothing, but everything slows very slowly. But I'm going to talk about the situation of Japan right now. For those of you who are not familiar with national universities in Japan, I will briefly describe and explain about the Japanese national universities. As of today, there are 87 national universities, and most of them were founded after the Second World War, except for 7 former imperial universities, including University of Tokyo, Kyoto University, Osaka University, and Nagoya University, and 3 other imperial universities. They were founded around the turn of the last century, around late 19th to early 20th century. But for other national universities, these national universities were founded based on the government policy, which is one national university in each of the nation's 47 prefectures. Okay, so most Japanese national universities were established to meet the local needs and the local labor market. And because of this locally assigned missions, internationalization has always been a big challenge for many of the local national universities. And the challenge of internationalization may be well represented by this: exclusion of the foreign teachers from the faculty meetings and relevant internal organizational committees. And this exclusionism continued until the enactment of the Act of Special Measures Concerning Public, that's a long title, Public Universities, Employment of Foreign Teachers, and Other Matters in 1982. So it was only recently that our international faculty colleagues won the civil rights in the Japanese community of higher education. So this act allowed foreign faculty members to take part in the faculty meetings and to have the right to vote. And I can mention maybe a few other examples. For example, Japan branch, Japan operation of foreign universities. And now this was a big trend in the 1980s, especially when Japan was experiencing robust economic growth. A lot of foreign universities were attracted to Japanese economy. But I have to say most of them disappeared by the mid-1990s. Okay, but there are some U.S. universities still surviving in Japan. For example, Temple University. I think McGill University of Canada, they have a part-time MBA program. I think Columbia Teachers College offers English teachers master's program, but not very many. But in those days, those foreign universities operated in Japanese on the land of Japan did not have the same status as Japanese universities, meaning that the Ministry of Education did not approve their program as equivalent to that of the Japanese universities. And also, recognition of degree programs and degrees granted by non-Japanese universities, they were not equivalent to the degrees granted by Japanese universities. So internationalization still continues to be a pressing issue for most local national universities. And then in 1983, the government came out with the plan to accept 100,000 international students. The plan was realized in 2003 by reaching 100,000 international students. But then the government came out with a new framework of 300,000 international student plan in 2008. But when you compare these two plans, they're totally different in character. The first one, of course, the plan came out in the mid-1980s when the Japanese economy was experiencing robust growth and economic prosperity. So the role at that time for the Japanese university was to accept international students as part of the ODA role. But when the 2008 plan came out, the economic boom was over. So the government, this is how I interpret, the government purpose of introducing this 2008 plan was to make a shift from the ODA role towards gaining more competitive edge. So this goal, the plan is still ongoing, and the goal is to be achieved by 2020. So as a result of these government initiatives, the number of international students increased, doubled or tripled or even quadrupled. For China, in 1998, there were 23,000 students. In 2016, almost 100,000 students by China itself, followed by Vietnam and Nepal being the second and third. As opposed to in 1998, South Korea and Taiwan were the second and the third in terms of the number of international students studying in Japan. I would like to talk a little bit about autonomy, university autonomy in Japan. When we talk about autonomy in Japan, you need to understand about the corporatization of national universities, which took place in 2004. And this is deemed as the big bang of Japanese higher education. But this corporatization, the main purpose of this was to increase the university autonomy at the expense of reduced subsidies by the government. I have to say this was not easy landing. It was very rough landing for most national universities more than 10 years ago. But today, there are some universities began to take advantage of this autonomy. I will give you an example of my university, Hiroshima University. Last year, we established this Morito Higher Education Institution 3+1 international program. And the program offers an international program in which students spend 3 years in their home country and spend the last senior thesis year, fourth year at Hiroshima University. The degree will be granted by their home country university. We're providing a specific, advising and research in the fourth year. And last year we accepted 26 students, and this year 90. And we are expecting it to be probably to grow to probably 200 next year. And almost 100% of these international students are from Chinese universities, mainland China. There are some groups of Japanese extremists and right-wing political activists. This is a reaction to Trump administration. This guy is, of course, he twitters too. He tweets, and he raised the importance of pursuing Japan First policy to fight back to the United States. Of course, that does not reflect the general climate in Japan or the voice of public opinion in Japan right now. But here's a poll result. By the way, this was not conducted by the government. Survey was conducted by a private broadcasting company. But they collected more than 50,000 respondents. And as you can see here, 64% said, well, Japan should pursue Japan First policy. Okay. And there are a lot of policy debates in Japan. There has always been strong opposition against teaching in English. Of course, this is the question about the effectiveness of teaching, but also the benefit for Japanese students. Well, it might be beneficial. International students may benefit from this English taught classes. But then the second one comes to the debate. How much tax to be spent on supporting international students, providing these English taught courses or scholarships, or spending our tax money on educating the students. And at the class level size too, there's always a debate on optimal ratio of international Japanese students in the classroom, because as you know, Japanese students tend to be overwhelmed by non-Japanese students in the classroom, especially when they discuss on various things. So, but this itself raises the issue of internationalizing our domestic students as well. Okay. Oh, yeah. And you know me very well. But what is lacking is, right now, is a debate on, or discussion on, how and when we are going to open up our domestic labor markets to international students and graduates, especially in the age of shrinking population in Japan and the shortage of labor force and rapidly aging society. And as I showed you in the previous slide, Vietnam, Nepal, those international students from those countries are looking for jobs after getting education in Japan. But of course, we haven't had very serious discussion about our immigration policy. You may even say Japan does not have immigration policy whatsoever. But I'm quite confident that the immigration policy is the next agenda to be raised by the government if you ought to accelerate internationalization. Okay.